Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Howdy, guys. Welcome back to Cause Before Symptom. It is your lovely guest host, Urban. I'm glad to see everyone tonight. I hope you are all doing well. I've got a new kind of a stream setup, so hopefully this works well. I should be able to see pretty much everybody who says anything on any of the platforms now. I've been kind of playing with things a little bit, just trying to get them straight. So I'm glad that y'all are here. Pastor Carner is out at the gold mines for today and tomorrow. I'll be with you again tomorrow. And I've got just a lot of interesting stuff to show you. I've been kind of looking into Pastor Carner's new book that he released. It's very fascinating. I really think that he's on to something with that. So I don't know how many of you guys have had a chance to um, see the book or read it, or if you guys have had a chance to do that yet. But tonight, what I was going to kind of do is I was going to try and get everyone kind of caught up. So what I did was, as a matter of fact, I took the book and I was looking at it next to the Genesis 6 conspiracy with Gary Wayne. But before I do that, guys, what I wanted to just kind of show you guys was a video that I found last night, and it's from a guy. His name was not Oliver North, Matthew North, and he was a somebody who was a researcher, and he did a lot of great research on people like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan and the like, and he eventually, unfortunately, turned up dead. So, I think he may have really been on to something. Um, and I think they got to him and they took him out. So I want to go ahead and take a look at that with you guys. And then after we do that, we will get into some of these notes that that I took on the new book. So this is actually posted to my Substack. Uh, I posted this earlier today, and it's actually done pretty well. So let's see if I can bring this up here. And we will go to there. Awesome. Let's see. Boom, here we are. All right. So,
I wanted to start by mentioning some of Joe Rogan's sponsors. This is going to be the theme of this presentation is the corporate and cultural agendas that Joe Rogan is involved in. Now, this is the type of information that's not fun to research yourself. It's just better if someone presents it. So that's what I'm going to be doing. If you haven't yet, check out the work of Jan Irvin.
we're not going to watch
He's a
the
vet.
whole
He's been
video.
doing
We're
this
only going to
forever.
watch
He was involved with Joe Rogan
probably
early on. He's
about
actually the guy who
20,
gave him
30
DMT
minutes of it.
originally. And he was offered positions. So he understands how this works, and he's covered it
Glad to see y'all
very
tonight.
well. Also, Jesse Spots. I would like to recommend his playlist for the intellectual dark web. He does some great research. Please check that out. I'm going to touch on the intellectual dark web a little bit. This is the rising centrist movement we see in this country. Right? Trump is a monkey wrench, a chaos agent for a new, brave new world. A centrist movement, a unifying movement. All right,
There we go.
So let's
Now
start
y'all
with
can see
Rogan
me.
sponsors. So Cash App is a big one. Jones mentioned that. Okay, the Jack Dorsey connection, and then everybody that followed. So this has been covered at nauseum, so I'm not going to really focus on Cash App and Dorsey, but there are some that people looked over. So like
How's it going,
23andMe.
Boots? How's it going,
This
Claire?
is a
How's it
big
going,
one,
Jeffrey?
directly sponsoring
Glad to
Rogan's
see all of you
podcast.
tonight.
So 23andMe is co-founded and owned by Ann Wojcicki,
All of you tonight.
the Jewess. Okay, Anne is the sister of Susan Wojcicki, the Jewess, who is the CEO of YouTube. I'm sure you're all familiar with her. And Anne was formerly married to Sergey Brin, the co-founder of Google. Okay, so you should be aware of the 23andMe database, System, the whole agenda with that. Rogan used to try to be
He
slick
was
with
talking
it, and
about
he
this
would just
stuff
be like, "Oh yeah, you should do
probably about 3
the
years ago. I mean,
23andMe
he's
because
been
they tell you
dead
all your
for
health risks,"
a
and
couple
he
years
would
now.
promote it. That's how his podcast works. Every other sentence in his podcast is a corporate plug or a cultural plug, a cultural agenda or a corporate agenda. For example, he'll mention some pasta that he gets from Italy and acts like he just likes the product. No, he's getting paid to do that. That's how his podcast works. Okay, people need to understand that. And his influence is beyond anything we've ever seen. His podcast is so influential because of its base in Los Angeles, and then also it spreads everywhere else. So you can set the trends in Los Angeles, and they spread everywhere else. And that's exactly what we see going on with Rogan. He is by far the most crucial asset for the information age at this point in time. Okay, and then another person who sits on the board and is high level in 23andMe is Esther Dyson. Now, I want to highlight her because of her involvement in commercial and privatized space, which is a common theme we see running through these Rogan Jones type networks. Okay, so as of early 2007, Dyson describes herself as spending more and more time on the private aviation and commercial
Whoever that was
space
that just
startups.
followed me on Kick, I appreciate it.
Also
Thank
in
you.
healthcare and genetics. Dyson is a founding member of Space Angels Network and is invested in
I appreciate it.
also
Thank
in
you.
healthcare, Constellation Services, Zero G, Icon Aircraft, Space Adventures, and Mars One. Now, Mars One is a well-known scam. And I want you to think about how long commercial and privatized space has been in the conversation, right? There's a news article for it, at least once a week, that somebody's taking the step for commercial space. And for decades we've seen this. Richard Branson, et cetera, Elon Musk. What do we see come out of it? Nothing, because it's a scam. Now, it would be easier for you to understand this if you understand the scam that NASA is. Now, if you're completely unaware of that or unfamiliar with that subject, email me, northmattheww@gmail.com, and I will send you proof and evidence that NASA is a scam, scamming $52 million a day from the laughingstock of the world, U.S. taxpayers. Okay, so that's a common theme, again, is commercial and privatized space that we see running through these networks. It's my contention that they're essentially funnels for that money to be funneled into other movements and other agendas, i.e. an information age asset like Joe Rogan. So let's move on to Elon Musk. Now, I believe, although Elon is not listed as a sponsor, he is a sponsor, and here's why I think that.
From Colorado.
But I
It's
did
like-
just get a Tesla, so I'm supporting the podcast. Well,
Okay, did you hear that? Okay, he said, I did just.
From Colorado.
but I
It's
did
like-
just get a Tesla, so I'm
Oh.
supporting
That's a
the
little
podcast.
suspicious, don't you think?
I did just get a Tesla, so I'm supporting the podcast. How does that follow? Buying a Tesla supports Joe Rogan's podcast. Is Elon Musk subsidizing Rogan's podcast for an agenda? For propaganda purposes? Absolutely. Absolutely. And we saw this demonstrated with the securing funded, when Elon smoked the blunt, when he hit the backwood
Yeah, that was fun.
on Rogan's podcast. That was them manipulating stock prices. That was completely fake, and there were plenty of YouTube videos that I posted in my community section, articles, but they all got scrubbed because Rogan has that much access and influence. They all got scrubbed. So a lot of people don't understand that when Elon Musk tweets funding secure at 420, and then he gets up there and puffs on the blunt, that was them manipulating stock prices. Provably them manipulating stock prices. That's what was going on there. That was fake. Joe Rogan's podcast is the realest fake thing you'll ever see. It's very scripted.
I thought that was pretty
it's
brilliant.
very
The realest
corporatized,
fake thing you'll ever
and there's an
see.
agenda behind almost everything he does on that podcast. But
pretty
it seems
true.
organic, but it's not. It's not. He'll
They've had
also do
to
things like,
they've had to
oh, what's
reinvent
that
the game a
square
bit.
state? How do
They've had to reinvent the game a little bit. So this stuff that's going on now with podcasting taking over what used to be the traditional news media, that is kind of transforming the game. Where people were previously being brainwashed and MK Ultra through the news media, now it's primarily happening through your algorithm. It's also happening through influencers, and especially somebody who's at the top of the list on Spotify, one of the most famous podcasts ever. There was a reason that Donald Trump went on that podcast. Now, it's important for me to say this. I'm not saying Joe Rogan is, you can't watch it, whatever. No, that's not what I'm saying. Not at all. Absolutely not. What I am saying is that you have to understand that there's no such thing as being immune to propaganda. That's not possible. You can be aware that it's happening to you, and you can understand how it works, and that way you can hopefully not be on the bad end of that. But that's not always possible. So
they end up with a perfectly square state, acting like he doesn't know what Wyoming is.
Possible.
He's been to Wyoming. He understands what Wyoming is. He knows what that state is, but he acts like he doesn't for that interaction with his audience. So his audience could be like, "Oh, it's Wyoming, Joe, you idiot." He understands that. That interaction that he's getting with his audience is getting them engaged. It's that sophisticated. It's that controlled. He's looking for that engagement. Okay? And that's kind of a point that Jones made when he was on the podcast last time, which is a point I've been making for over a year now. And I have emails to prove that. But also, Joe Rogan with Elon Musk, the Neuralink, which he's been promoting, right? The brain lace. This is an agenda.
Yeah, and this was a few years back
that he was promoting long before Elon Musk came out with the Neuralink. This is now we're seeing this all over now. We're seeing brain chips. All this idea promoted everywhere. Where did it start? Who was the cultural change agent that originally started pushing this out into the collective unconscious, if you will? Well, Joe did. So let's listen to this from a recent podcast, 2019.
That used to hang around.
I think the cure is mind reading, and I think we're going to accept that cure because Elon is working on some sort of neural link thing.
That's the only way we'll know if someone's telling the truth.
We're going to have it. I think it's good. We're going to accept it, and we're going to give in, and we're going to we're going to be able to. I'll take it another step further. I think they're going to create a universal language. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think there's going to be a universal language that probably is augmented reality, some augmented reality language of shapes or something,
some kind of symbolism that
symbols.
Something that we agree to, and we're probably not going to accept it because we're old. We're like, fuck this.
Next generation,
our kids, maybe even our kids' kids are going to be the first people to adopt it, and then it's going to be universal worldwide. And with augmented reality,
I gotta say, I mean, how did he know these
some
things
sort
all
of
those years back?
ability to interact with each other through bandwidth.
I remember
through bandwidth. Okay, so it's gonna happen. You notice
this
that
kid was very smart.
No matter what, this is gonna happen.
Obviously, he did die under
so let's
mysterious
listen to this from
circumstances.
2014. How was Joe aware of this agenda years ago, 5+ years ago? How was he aware of this? Why was he promoting this idea? Because he's been working with these circles for a long time.
I think that one of the things that's coming out with technology is access to information. And access to information, not just current information, but maybe even future. Like the ability to read minds, to read thoughts, to read...
Okay. So let's finish this up from the same podcast, finishing on that thought.
Technological symbiotic relationship takes place to the point where we essentially our memories, especially, right? They're pretty piss poor.
Right.
But if we can turn our memories into some digital archive that you can access at will, our memories then especially, right? We're going to know. I'm going to look in your head and I'm going to know what's going on. I'm going to be able to tap into it. We'll be connected the same way we're connected with Wi-Fi. The same way our cell phones are connected through the cellular network, there'll be some sort of a network of information exchange between all people. And if that's the case,
if you guys have not seen,
network,
her name is Sabrina. Marina Wallace.
Information
I mean,
exchange between people. If that's the case,
if you
cell
guys
phones
have
are
not,
connected.
yeah, so I would definitely suggest checking her out. She is very technical, very high level when she talks, but everything she's talking about, absolutely, is real. Unfortunately, it's real. It's something straight out of science fiction, and unfortunately, what that means is that because it's at such a high level, people will, first of all, not even be able to comprehend that what she's saying is tangible. And she talks about, for instance, what is the actual technology behind mRNA? Well, it is, and again, I'm simplifying this, it is a way to insert nano technology into the body. And what this is doing is it really is turning us in gradually to a programmable, which we already were programmable in terms of human nature, but a programmable based on a computer interface, based on what this technology actually is. And she actually has figured a lot of this out, but it's very hard to understand. Some people may know who she is, some people may not know who she is, but she is definitely not as crazy as she seems. She does seem a little crazy, but I think she's aware of that. And if you do your research, you'll know that we're past the point of sounding sane, unfortunately, guys. We're truly past the point of seeming sane.
Case deception will be almost impossible.
Right.
Motivations will be crystal clear, and you're gonna know who's full of shit. It's gonna be a fucking bad day for a lot of it.
Okay, so again, promoting that agenda for a long time now. Let's move on here. Again, saying it's inevitable.
That was Elon's other thing that he said on the podcast. You're already a cyborg. You have a phone. It's not in your body, but it's something you're holding on to.
Yeah. It's voluntary cyborg.
Did you guys read Third Wave years ago? Was that a book you ever got into?
No.
That was.
Oh, hey, Claire, I didn't see that. Thank you for that. Apparently in Rumble, if you look at it, your name is highlighted, which means you've so graciously became a subscriber or to the channel. So thank you for that. I just want to let you know that really is appreciated. Nobody here has any obligation, or we don't really ask for donations or anything like that. But if you do find it in your will to do so, we greatly appreciate that. So thank you for that, Claire.
Was the prediction of all this.
Really?
Yeah, and it's in the early 80s. And it was a prediction, and the one thing Third Wave predicted was that.
Okay, so we have Third Wave mentioned there, which Jones also mentioned on his recent podcast. Now that's very interesting to me, and this is a common theme in my life. That is something that I was researching long ago, and that I was going to include in this regardless, and other things. Let me pull this up here. Third Wave. Information overload. Okay? Future shock. Okay, now Toffler, Alvin Toffler, the guy who wrote this, is involved with the Revolution and Military Affairs crew, the future Soviet warfare theory pushers within our own countries.
What is it?
Okay, the people that are involved.
What is it with all of these people who are writing this basically dystopian crap? First we had Orwell, and then we had people like Huxley. We had the Fabian Society, H.G. Wells. So I have no idea why all of these people are mysteriously involved in creating dystopian military technology. That's pretty fascinating to me, don't you think?
In the New York, Moscow, Tel Aviv triangle.
Oh, what is that? A New York, Moscow, Tel Aviv crime syndicate. Does that sound like anything that we've heard of before? No.
Those who have infiltrated the highest institutions in our country.
This is important, what he's about to say. This is one of the reasons that I decided that I wanted to post this and also to share it with you guys tonight.
And have subverted them for the East's benefit, for Israel's benefit, and via the back door into the West, Israel, for Russia's.
The back door into the West is Israel, is what he says. Now, I don't have an exact date oh, well, I guess this says 2018, so maybe 2019, 2020. Israel is the back door to the West, for the BRICS and the Eastern countries. So keep that in the back of your mind.
Benefit for China's benefit. Okay, so I want you to look at the date here. This is from my notes on my other computer, June 7th, 2018. I have never heard this mentioned by any other researcher, anything. This is something I found my own on Wikipedia and included it into my research. Now, all of a sudden, recently it's being mentioned on Joe Rogan's podcast. I find that very interesting. So, Topher coined the term future shock to refer to what happens to a society when a change happens too fast, which results in social confusion and normal decision-making process breaks down. He continued the theme in Third Wave, 1980, when he describes the first and second wave as agricultural industrial revolutions. The third wave, a phrase he coined, represents the current information computer-based revolution. Now remember, this was in 1980. He forecast the spread of the internet and email, interactive media, cable television, cloning, and other digital advancements. He claimed that one of the side effects of the digital age has been information overload. Another term
Absolutely.
he has coined. Okay, so information overload.
Overload definitely is, it's like muddying the waters. So information overload. There was a saying, I can't quite remember it, I wanted to remember it, but there was a saying, essentially, the more information you have, or you give people, the more information they have, the ability for their ability to make a sound judgment becomes lower, the more information there is. So if you have a bunch of information that's competing, the waters are muddy, this says this, but this says this, and you can't really figure out what's going on. That is why it's harder for that person to then make an actual decision, is because you're not clear on what's true and what's false. That's what we're seeing now.
Information apocalypse, as Steve Pieczenik referred to it in his novels, is what we're living through right now.
Right.
So, information overload, too much information, there has to be a solution. Problem, reaction, solution. Chaos, order out of chaos. That's exactly what we're seeing. And the solution for them is a brave new world.
Absolutely.
That is the agenda here. The centrist brave new world agenda. So let's move on to, well, okay, so it's the bigger plan. Let's do this. It's the bigger plan. Let's listen to what Jones has to say about the bigger plan.
Wow. Today, we're going to have Zach on, who's just a really smart guy and a great source, and really already tells me things that I already basically know from other sources, but he likes to come on the show, and we like to have him on the show. And he knows Elon Musk, and he knows Louis Farrakhan, a lot of other folks that behind the scenes have been reached out to and basically have been resonating with, especially if you talk about somebody like Elon Musk with the bigger plan. Now, what is the bigger plan?
That's a good question, Jones. What is the bigger plan?
Right on the money.
I'll finish up with Zach here once I move on to the next sponsor.
Player.
Zach is friends with both Rogan and Jones, as well as Elon Musk and others. He's the one who set up the whole Kanye West situation. Let's listen to this clip real quick.
Yeah, I'm hoping that having him in office is that the whole thing was such a clusterfuck and that so many people are so disturbed that it's going to make people more politically active and more aware of the consequences of having someone like that in office.
Yeah, and actually, weirdly, unifying.
Yeah.
Because
weirdly
unifying, absolutely. That's what we've been talking about. I know a few guys remember when I did the presentation last time on the Vatican Jesuit Theater Christian nationalism movement. That's what it's going to be. It's going to be this idea of morality and unity. It's going to revolve around, we're the moral ones. We're the ones who are not deranged and degenerate like those people over there. And part of that has been to essentially push to the extreme one way, and then, for instance, push to the extreme left with Biden, then bring Trump in, push to the extreme right with Trump, and ultimately order out of chaos. So the unity comes after the chaos.
Chaos. Order out of chaos. I have clips of Jones as well saying that Trump was a monkey wrench thrown into the system to create chaos. Because you can create order out of chaos.
That reminds me. Let's see.
Unifying, a centrist unifying movement that gives you miracles, gives you new plant-based solutions, gives you new solutions to big pharma, gives you new solutions in technology. It sounds wonderful.
Yeah. That reminds me. Here, I found it. 1 second. Yeah, this reminds me. I wanted to show you this while we're on that topic, just so that everybody's clear.
Trump is the best thing happened ever to us. That he is the magician of the highest order. That he is there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being.
That's Marina Abramovic, the Satanist.
You know, it's not so stupid thinking about this in that way. It's completely turning things upside down. Trump is the best thing happened ever to us. That he is the magician of the highest order.
Magician of the highest order. Why? So, all these. I mean, I give it to him. A lot of people are well informed, but this person who's in all the documentaries, Marina Abramovic, she's the Satanist, the spirit cooking woman. Trump is a magician of the highest order. What does that mean? I don't know.
But they're used as methods of control.
Pretty wild, if you ask me.
Further enslavement for a brave new world. That's why this needs to be highlighted, and the change agents involved in this agenda need to be highlighted and hammered on. Okay, so let's move on to the next sponsor here, which Jones made veiled threats at, right here, on it. Aubrey Marcus and Joe Rogan. Now, when Jones was referencing DMT cults in Austin,
he was
referencing...
Have you guys heard of this? This is a new addition to the club, DMT cults. Like the hallucinogenic drug DMT cults in Hollywood.
Working with Pentagon and DARPA.
In California.
He was referencing On It.
On It.
And who On It's associated with.
Just FYI, guys, this whole interview here, or this whole presentation's on the Substack, theofficialurban.substack.com. It literally says "must see." That's the title right there, "must see." If you want to watch it, it's like 2 hours long.
With Jones wasn't authentic from the beginning. I knew that threatening On It was a legitimately Jones putting pressure on Rogan, and having Jan Irving on was actually him putting pressure on Rogan. But I knew he would never go anywhere. He was doing it because he was pissed at him.
Yeah.
He was doing it because of the
Claire, that's true. He is a Gemini.
We'll get into here in a second. Joe is
Geminis are
Soros that.
Geminis are definitely probably one of the most unique, and this is the truth, fairly. The sign of Gemini is the two faces. And so they are very much subsequently the most interesting, fascinating people But, to be fair, in the kindest way, I really do know a lot of people, Gemini signs, who have had a very, rough time in life. And so it really seems like it's a high energy, volatile dynamic. And it's between the two opposites. But some of the best people are also Geminis. So
I knew it wasn't going to go anywhere, is my point. I knew that these are overlapping networks, like a Venn diagram, overlapping, that this would not end up going anywhere. So let's get into On It here. So, this is a Reddit post from 3 years ago. Whoever put this together did a good job of highlighting the shell companies that Aubrey's dad was involved in. So we're going to see mafia connections here, corporate connections here and Pentagon connections here. Those are the big three that are operating these networks. So the true history of Onnit, originally founded by Aubrey Marcus's Texas oil man father, Michael Marcus, and originally formulated by Aubrey's stepmother, Janet Zand, an acupuncturist. So let's go ahead and read this. Michael Marcus, father of Aubrey Marcus. History of Onnit, originally founded by Michael Marcus, is a commodities trader who in less than 20 years reputed to have turned his initial 30,000 into 80 million.
Wow, that's a big...
Notably missing from that Wikipedia page is how Michael Marcus made his millions in oil and gas. Aubrey Marcus's dad, Michael P. Marcus, named a business Coffee Exchange, Inc., which he later changed to Touchstone Resources. And then he again changed to Cygnus Oil and Gas, which owns working interests in approximately 13 oil and gas projects in Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Alabama, and New Zealand. Okay, so are we seeing a common theme here? Are we smelling shell companies?
Shell
Aubrey
companies
Marcus's
through
dad,
the roof.
Michael
You
P.
get a
Marcus,
shell
started
company,
another
you get a
business
shell
named
company,
All
and
American
you get a
Burger,
shell
which he
company.
changed to Bexy Communications, which he again changed to Sherney Energy. What is Sherney Energy? Sherney Energy is a billion-dollar oil company. Aubrey Marcus's dad started another business named Expressions Graphic Inc., which he again changed to Continental Southern Resources, which he again changed to Endeavor International Corporation, another oil company which ended up screwing investors out of their money. Scams for agendas.
Scams for agendas. Ain't that the truth, y'all?
So Aubrey Marcus was a trust fund kid with millions of dollars from his dad, Michael Marcus.
All right, we'll stop there. I just wanted to give you guys a taste. This is, all right, crazy stuff. He was definitely on to some good research. And I've obviously I've been down researching this stuff for a good minute. And so, was he actually killed for this research? I don't know. I do hear there was mysterious circumstances surrounding his death. And his information is pretty unique. I haven't really seen it out there much. So, first, I'm going to plug Pastor Carner's new books. All you got to do is just go to jamescarner.com, scroll down, and you can download all 3 of the books for absolutely free. Since I'm streaming, the pages are going to take a minute to load. There it is. First book, Breath War. Second one, Crown of Blood. Third one, The Ritual Machine. Yeah, so this stuff that he's working on, truthfully, all of the research that I've done has led me to the same conclusions that he's reached. Everything that he's found is directly talked about, just using fancy language, in almost all of these occult systems. And so, as a matter of fact, I did some looking into it. Gary Wayne, who wrote the Genesis 6 Conspiracy. Gary Wayne is very talented. He's done a lot of work, a lot of research. He's read the Bible all the way through, and probably multiple times. He's read other religious texts. He's also read mythology and stuff like that. So he's looking at it with a bird's eye view. He's looking at this stuff with a really wide scope. And from that, he's published his findings in 2, like 800-page books. The first one is like 800 some pages, and the second one is like 800 some pages. So, with that being said, I took a look at the Genesis 6 Conspiracy and looked at how it actually ties into the whole breath wars, breath theft systems. And so, one of the first things that I discovered was that practically what we're looking at here is a trust. It is a trust. So what is a trust? A trust is in layman's terms, somebody has something. So, for instance, Jeffrey Epstein put all of his money before he killed himself into a trust. Because when you put money into a trust, you have a degree of anonymity. You can have things done without any direct involvement. So the settlor is the person or entity who creates the trust. They transfer their property or authority into the trust. Okay, the trustee is the individual who is responsible for managing those assets. So it would be like a steward in the best interest of the beneficiary. So, you know, if a father or a mother leaves their child money, but the child is like 5 or 6 years old, it is kind of a trust dynamic, goes into it like a trust. And then the trustee would be like an older relative or somebody who would make sure that they get their money, hopefully, when they you know, become 18 of age. The beneficiary is the person or entity for whose benefit the trust is created. The trust property is what the settlor has put into the trust. And the purpose is obviously the objective. Why did I create the trust? And so, in the modern context, trusts are widely used in common law jurisdictions for estate planning, asset protection, and charitable purposes, and for pedophiles who commit suicide. They're also used for that. For innocent, obviously, legal purposes, because pedophiles obviously don't do any actual crime. It would be negligent of me to assume that a pedophile like Jeffrey Epstein would break any laws. So, you know, I can't jump to conclusions, or else I'm a conspiracy theorist. So the reason that I got into this, the reason that I started asking and looking into trust, was because the supposedly, you know, this is conspiracy territory, but what else y'all here for? Was a trust. The first trust was a papal bull by the name of Unum Sanctum, which was decreed in, I believe, the late 1200s, early 1300s. Unum Sanctum. And so that means one holy. Long story short, I wish I would have put a little quote in there, but the papal bull literally ends. Oh, it might be right here. Here we go. Example of Unum Sanctum. Yeah, at the end, the bull claims that every human creature must submit to the Pope for salvation. And it was a spiritual mandate, not a secular legal obligation. And so the reason that this is interesting is because as an ideological trust, let's see, let me highlight this just so you guys can follow along. It could ideologically be interpreted as a trust-like structure, with the Pope as a trustee of divine authority for the benefit of Christians. Now, this is what they, you know, profess they believe. At least they did when this was decreed, and much longer after that. I mean, it's only a fool would argue that the papacy, you know, renounced this doctrine. They're literally still laying claim to what is now the Vatican City State, but before that, they held the papal states for 2 millennia almost, and that was from the forged donation of Constantine. So their basis of power was on a lie. But Unum Sanctum says everybody has to submit to Rome in order for their eternal salvation. Now, the idea is that if, now again, this is Catholic doctrine, if Jesus gives the church to St. Peter, you know, I will, you are Peter, on this rock I will build my church. Essentially, you kind of see this idea of a spiritual trust. And what this is saying is that all of the souls here on earth are basically in a trust with the Pope as a trustee. The Pope is a trustee because he is saying that you need to go through the Catholic Church for salvation. So all of the souls on earth, according to Catholic doctrine, are Rome's. And so what this does is this allows it to become a asset of sorts. And fast forward to today, and Pastor Carner's books, we see this idea of a programmable machine-like system for human resources. Because if the Pope can say, if I own or am necessary for the salvation of all of these souls, I have these at my disposal. They are an asset of mine. And so in a negotiation, for instance, this is a hypothetical for instance, will all of these people submit to me so I can get them to do something? So it is a spiritual asset, and that's really what ties this whole system into modern currencies, modern trade, modern commerce. It all starts in the 1300s, at least that we can tangibly trace back to this spiritual trust that the Vatican invented for itself. Remember, it invented this for itself. So, in terms of the Genesis 6 conspiracy, in that book, Gary Wayne talks about the Nephilim, he talks about the fallen angels, and he really tries to explain how there are two different lineages, the lineage of Seth through Abel, and the lineage of Cain through Enoch, the evil Enoch, because there are two Enochs, and his descendants, Tubal Cain and Lamech, and subsequently down the line, they became the masters of city building. They were the ones who built the cities, and that was the city of Enoch, the evil, and it was taken away. And to this day, they still basically hate God for that. They hate God for the flood. They hate God for taking Enoch and his city away. So, everybody probably has a good concept of what breath is. So I'm going to just kind of jump over that. We all know that the mechanisms of breath theft, murder, trauma and fear, consent. Consent. That's important because, back to our example with something like the Catholic Church, the idea is that people are giving consent, because they consent through their faith in the institution, not their faith in Jesus, their faith in the idea that an elderly man living in a castle, wearing a dress, speaks for God. That's what their consent is in the form of. And so, they tie it to the Catholic Church, and they believe you are literally eating the body of Jesus. Like it's a weird doctrine. It's weird because everybody understands communion is this his body is represented by the bread and his blood is represented by the wine, but they have taken this a step up. They have the doctrine of transubstantiation. I'll say that again, transubstantiation. The belief that the priest, and you need a priest for this, can literally turn the sacraments into Jesus. Literally. In all but taste, and it doesn't look like Jesus, but it's literally Jesus. As a matter of fact, let's see. Transubstantiation. Yeah, and I'll plug this again, guys. If you don't use Yandex, start using Yandex. Just go to Wikipedia and see what it says. Transubstantiation is, according to the teaching of the Catholic Church, the, quote, change of the whole substance of bread in the substance of the body of Christ and of the whole substance of wine into the substance of the blood of Christ. This change is brought about in the Eucharistic prayer through the efficiency of the word of Christ and by the action of the Holy Spirit. However, and this is where it gets just fascinating to me, the outward characteristics of bread and wine, that is the Eucharistic species, remains unaltered. So, it is technically Jesus. And so the Satanists, according to Bill Schneebelen, who Pastor Carner interviewed about a year back, I actually posted that on the Substack because hopefully I would like to get in touch with him and try to do an interview with him myself. But yes, he said that in order to become a satanic priest, you have to become a Catholic priest first, and it is because of this doctrine, transubstantiation. Because if the bread is literally Jesus, then that means, they can desecrate literally Jesus. They're literally mocking Jesus in the flesh. So, yeah, in this teaching, the notions of substance and transubstantiation are not linked with any particular theory of metaphysics. Words don't lie, but I won't debate that now. The Catholic Church teaches that in the Eucharistic offering, bread and wine are changed into the body and blood of Christ. The affirmation of this doctrine on the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, I'll look at that in a minute, was expressed using the word transubstantiate by the Fourth Council of the Lateran in 1215. That's interesting, about the same time as Udum Sanctum. It was later challenged by various 4th century reformers, John Wycliffe in particular. And so you got to understand, when the Catholic Church excommunicates somebody, when they cut them off from the faith, they are denying them this holy sacrament. They believe that seeing as they have the ability to do this transformation, this transubstantiation, and you need the actual, like you're like, if I eat a piece of bread in memory of Jesus, as he told his followers to do, in remembrance of me, if I do that, it's not valid according to the Catholic Church because I don't have the actual body and blood. And so that's what this teaches, because they think that anyone outside of the church is literally not able to be saved because they don't have the body of Christ, the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. So this is a whole debate. Real presence is the Christian doctrine that Jesus Christ is present in the Eucharist, not merely symbolically or metaphorically, but in a true, real, and substantial way. That's very important. Like they literally believe this. And if you need any more proof that the whole Satanist movement started at least out of Catholic belief. Now, not saying all Catholics are Satanists, that's not what I'm saying. But if satanic sects in their black mass need to do this mental gymnastic schizophrenia, that's really what it is. Schizophrenia, it's not valid desecration of Christ unless we have a Catholic priest here, because it's a Catholic-based doctrine, and that's something that really should be taken note of. A number of Christian denominations, so I didn't actually know this, but let's see. Roman Catholic, Eastern Orthodox, Oriental Orthodox, Eastern Syriac, Moravian, Lutheran. I did not know the Lutherans believe that. Anglican, Methodist, Reformed, Baptist, and Irvingian. I did not know that. That's news to me, as a matter of fact. The real presence is rejected by other Christians who see the Lord's Supper as purely a memorial, including the Plymouth Brethren, non-denominational Christian churches, as well as those identifying with liberal Christianity. Restoration movement, that's interesting. The Restoration movement is what a lot of these Christian evangelicals in the government believe in. Restoration. Restoration of what? Well, one, restoration of Sunday, Sabbath, blue laws, as we've already reviewed in depth. Basically, a return to Puritan norms. So that's why you're seeing this push to explicitly put Christianity into schools and make it part of the operation of the district. Now, do I have any issue with Christian students gathering or Muslim students gathering? No, that's not what I'm saying. When you have the government, in this case a state government, pass a law telling a school that you must display this religion's doctrines, that is crossing, in my opinion, solely my opinion, crossing a line into a blending of church and state, and people are just blind if they can't see that. I'm sorry. I mean, I truly have nothing against anyone of any faith, but this idea that we need to mix church and state, even though all of our founding fathers said, do not do this, so much so that they wrote it down into the Constitution, do not mix church and state. People still want to do it. And what I meant was they're primarily what are called restorationalists. The American Restoration Movement. Yeah, it began on the frontier during the Second Great Awakening and the early 19th century. They were seeking to reform the church from within and sought the unification of all Christians into a single body patterned after the Church of the New Testament. So what does that mean? That basically means, at least the way I'm reading it, one world government, Christian one world government. And that's basically what you're going to get with all of these televangelists that Trump has brought into the White House. Now, if he had brought, like people who were actually, people who had actually written good books, or people who had actually written interesting research on theology, that would be one thing. But these people that he's brought in, Paula White, and he's got all of these other people, I don't know who they are, but basically all of these televangelists, and he has brought them in as his prayer office. And these people are not who any of us want to represent Christianity. Now that is something that people really should start thinking about. Do you really want people to confuse Christianity with mega church televangelists? And do you want them to be the ones bringing the mixing of church and state? Do you really want that to be who does it? I don't think so. And these people are much more radical than anyone knows. That's what I'm kind of trying to convey here. These restorationalists are much more radical than they seem, primarily because you've got kind of this joint venture between the Jesuits, obviously, and you've also got the Christian Zionist and the Jewish Zionist, because the idea is that to unify the Jews into the Christian movement, and then to unify the Protestants back into this one world religion, you have to fulfill prophecy. That's what they're getting at here. You have to fulfill prophecy to get everyone on the same page. And as Bill Cooper said back in the day, he said, either these people are making this stuff come true as a way to control people, or it's actually real. The way I look at it is, basically it's both. Because if people are making it real, well, then it's still coming true, just as prophecy dictates. That's my opinion. But yes, these people are definitely focused on restoration through restoring prophecy, restoration of the Catholic Church, restoration of the Third Temple, restoration of Puritan. Seriously, just wait. I mean, the way that it's going to be framed is it's going to be a climate day of rest. So, as a matter of fact, you know what? As well, just show it to you because I got it. I'll show you what I mean. Yeah, so basically to let the planet have a day of rest from the climate, because climate change, whatever. To let the planet have a day of rest, we all need basically a Sabbath. So instead of resting for the Lord, you're resting for the planet. And you know what? Whatever. You do whatever you want. But here's where it gets scary. Here it is. Okay. Let's see. Let me bring this up into OBS. 2 seconds. Oh, shoot. Bear with me, guys. So got media source. Create a new media source. Go into here. Boom, here it is.
Government's remote control of car use installed on my car with no informed consent. I bought a Hyundai Carner EV 18 months ago, 71 plate, from a dealer. The car went in for a maps upgrade and came back as a write-off for me. They took the opportunity to upgrade the Blue Link infotainment software, and when I started it up, I was presented with a new screen saying terms and conditions changed. I was bored that day, so I flicked down a few pages and was about to jump out when I read it was now equipped with geofencing and geo-timing capabilities. We're talking about anything with an SOS button. My wife's car is a 2016. They can set range limits and time limits remotely. Terms say it's not used without consent unless required by law. The last sentence voids the whole thing.
So, if you didn't catch that, what is geo-fencing and geo-timing? So what that is, have you ever gone to the grocery store and you push your cart out and then the wheels lock up because they've got that geo-fence set up so people can't steal the grocery carts? That's what geo-fencing is. Geo-timing is, well, to save the environment, we're going to say, you know, you can't use your car more than 8 hours a week. Let's just say you can't drive your car for more than 8 hours. Or to save, obviously, to save the earth, we're just going to draw little lines and you can't go past them. Your car will just shut off. You have to have it towed home. And this will be on a, everybody needs a day of rest. Everybody needs a day to rest. And, you know, this busy, hectic, because I believe it was Greece. I think it was Greece. They just went from a 5-day work week to a 6-day work week. So these people are so tired, they're definitely going to need a day of rest. And the planet does too. So what better day than Sunday, right? Well, yeah, fine, you know, you want to rest on Sunday, whatever, to each their own. But what happens when, oh, planet needs a rest, so you can't drive your car outside of the city on Sunday, or you can't drive it for more than 2 hours on Sunday? And let me pose this question to you, the audience. If we are willing to send all of this money to Israel to genocide the Palestinians, to starve them to death. So where's all this aid money going? Well, it's money laundering operation. And I know, I know people who got a brain know, we know. They put these aid, where you get aid, they put them in active war zones. So nothing wrong with that. Nevertheless, we've sent all this aid over there, but you're telling me that the same people who can get all of this aid from us are going to be on board, and they're on board with this day of rest Sunday. I thought they wouldn't they make the whole world have the day of rest on Saturday or not? That's their day of rest. So, yeah, this is something that's, some towns you can't buy liquor on Sunday. They're called blue laws. All right, let's get back to this. The breath economy. Yeah, so the harvested breath is not discarded. It is meticulously managed by the energy system. Okay, so if you are a container for breath, if you are a human imbued with divine breath, the idea of human resources, or the output, rather, let's look at terms of currency dynamics and corporate law. So, as in the case with our currency, what is the... So when the United States government wants to create money, they borrow it from the Federal Reserve Bank. We all know that's a private bank. They borrow it, but in the laws of banking, each side must put up what's called consideration, which means something of value. The United States has to put up some type of consideration, or this is what I got. The words are blank right now. And the Federal Reserve gives them money, Federal Reserve notes. So what what is this that what is the United States borrowing against? Your breath. Well, let's use layman's terms. They are borrowing against, for instance, you were born and the average age or the average span of a life is, let's say, 75 years old. And so they're saying this person that was born in the United States is a citizen. They will live on average 75 years. They will output into the economy this much average value over their life. Because they are our citizen, that's our, we're borrowing against that value, that equity. That is what the United States government is putting up for consideration. It's us. It's our breath and our work, our energy, quite literally. Not just energy like me picking something up right now, but energy as in all of the energy throughout a person's life. That's what we're talking about here. And so that is where the line blurs between this breath and actual economics. And so that's what they put up for consideration. As a matter of fact, there was a court case back in the 60s, Jerome Daly versus the Montgomery, First National Bank of Montgomery. And so his house was being foreclosed on. The bank was foreclosing on his house. In his defense, Jerome Daly's defense was that because the bank put up money that they had just created, because when the loan happens, money is created out of thin air. That's how our economy works. Anytime there is a transaction in a bank, if you go and you put $1,000 into your bank account, new money has been created into the economy. About 10 times what you put in, as a matter of fact. That is accurate. So if you put in $1,000, they will create approximately $10,000 out of thin air, just because you put new money into the system. But because the the Bank of Montgomery did not put up a legitimate form of consideration, money they had just created out of thin air, he argued was not legitimate consideration. He actually won the case. The judge sided with Jerome Daly, and the judge wrote in the court documents in his brief, he said, only God can create something of value out of nothing. And I think that's a perfect summary for our system. Only God can create something of value out of nothing. And it is the highest form of alchemy, is money magic. Let me zoom in on this a bit. So yeah, polarity management. It's wrestling, like WWE, kayfabe. Luciferian system thrives on sustained polarity, perpetual conflicts, division, hostility between opposing poles, left versus right, race, class, gender. The conflict generates emotional discharge, rage, hatred, fear, releasing breath fragments into the energies or the adversary's domain. In terms of this, life force energy, it really is the occult, the esoteric mystery schools. This is vital energy or sexual energy or life force energy. When the term sexual energy is used, doesn't necessarily just mean the act of sex. What it does mean is vital life force. And as Carner has told you, he has used all of these books, many of which talk about that. And he has discovered what the concept is, this thing that all of these mystery schools have called life force energy, chi, mana. It's breath, ruach, which is the Hebrew word for spirit, your animating force. So it's like a Toy Story, when the toys just go limp when the humans are coming around. The spirit, the breath, the ruach is what animates us from basically going from a limp, not animated, to having life. That's breath. Okay, so the Genesis 6 conspiracy. in Genesis 6:1-4, it describes a critical legal violation. I highlight it for you. The sons of God, the watchers, the fallen angels, unlawfully crossing into the biological domain, merging their seed with human women. This is not merely a sexual sin, but a deliberate technological and legal act to infiltrate the breath registry by creating hybrid vessels. This is why, when you look in, trying to think, I won't say all, but a good majority of religious traditions, there is some idea of a book of life. And in some cases, Satan has a book of death. And it's this idea of recording all of the lives lived on earth. And that's what this is about. By infiltrating the legitimate registry. So God creates humans. These are all the humans that are going to live in the cumulative sum of all time. By creating hybrids, what they've done is the watchers, the fallen angels, have infiltrated into the registry. You know, they've gotten a faulty transaction into a legitimate book. So it's like if I go to the bank and I have $500 in my account, but I take out $2,000 and the ATM gives it to me, but I didn't really have it. That's what they've done. They've gotten into the ledger by a technicality. Let's see. The philosopher's stone is not a myth, but a nephilic matter. It is a crystallized pact of fallen authorship, a vault for fallen breath, now digitized into silicon wafers and quantum chips to fuel the false messiah's crown. Literally, I'm trying to, really what I wanted to do is I wanted to try and draw parallels between this and finance. That's kind of what I wanted to get into mainly tonight. So ultimately, it is this idea that there is a divine system. You know, the sun comes up and it goes down, and the sun moves across the sky. The days get longer and the days get shorter. That's the divine system. That's what's been created by God. But when people create this whole, for instance, let's say a civilization, a government, and they start creating licenses to fish. You need a license to get married. You need a license to go hunting. You know, when you need all these licenses, what they're doing is they're saying, oh, no. You know, God gave us the fish and the animals and stuff. Like, if you want to catch a fish, let you do it. But no. You need this system. You need, because for the good of society. It wasn't good already. See what I'm getting at here is what God gave us wasn't good enough. We need a system. You know, we would have so much danger if people could just go fishing. So we need something like licenses that you have to pay for. That's what this counterfeit system is. That's what's going on here. It's a mirror image, yes, but pastiche. The word is pastiche. It is a mockery. It is a knockoff, a poor imitation. Anything that's good, it's a cheap fake. Here, I've got the little infographic. I'll put it up. Let's see. Pastiche. Here it is. Pastiche. A mockery or poor imitation. We have fallen so far down Alice's rabbit hole that we have actually reached the Emerald City. And sure, we have reached the Emerald City. If you look at anything going on, it don't surprise you anymore. Nothing surprises, you know. And yeah, it's not hard. We've definitely made it to the Emerald City. Make believe, upside down, schizophrenia, la la land. Everyone for the most part, everyone's gone crazy in their own way. Some do it, some have gone crazy and they're healthy about it. They still go to work every day and survive, but like everyone's gone crazy just a little bit. So we've all fallen down the rabbit hole. We live in pastiche. We live in this knockoff, materialistic reality. And so, as it says, we've reached the final stages of it. And the only way we're going to get out of it is by a dangerous dose of reality. And that's true. Dangerous dose of reality. And so that is really the defense that you gain by being aware of these things. You gain defense from it because you know what's going on. You've been allowed to witness it as you would say. You see it. You see what's going on. A lot of people are not, for instance, it's the people who will call a spade a spade. It's like, yeah, this is a joke. It's everything that's good and decent. We've just taken it and we've crapped all over it. People who can be honest with themselves and say, yeah, we're living in a mockery. Those are the people who are walking with Jesus because Jesus is the truth. It's by the grace of Jesus that you get to see the truth. Not everyone gets to see it, I don't believe. I think there are some people who don't see it until at least maybe the end of their life. But that's the great trick, is that if you go through life and you don't spend any time being curious, as Jordan Maxwell always said, one day you will make it to the end of your life and you will wake up and you will realize that you haven't learned a damn thing. And it's true. So the people who sit here and they tell themselves, no, everything's okay, there's nothing to see here. Those are the people that are lost because they don't even know, or they can't even bring themselves to admit what they see. And so literally their eyes have deceived them, truthfully. The ritual machine. So here's the meat. As I was talking about earlier, civilizations, Babel as the first operating system. It was the first operating system, ritual software encoded in stone, designed to unify humanity under a single registry apart from God. So what does that mean? Take a look at something like the Gregorian calendar. It's a system. It's this power, this government, this church, this priesthood, let's use that word, priesthood, said, this is the calendar we're all going to use now. I don't care if you want to look up at the sun. I don't care if it's dark. This is what time it is now. And it's the submission to what the priest tells you is the truth. That's why in a city, a civilization, a society is ultimately a program. You get up every day and maybe you have coffee every morning. You wake up at 6 in the morning every single day. You have coffee right as soon as you wake up. And then after you do that, you take a shower. And then you go to work. Every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. On Saturday and Sunday, you have a different program. You spend time with your family. You go do this, that, or the other. But every day you get up, you have coffee, you take a shower, you go to work. That's a program. It's a ritual. When the word ritual is used, you got to understand, ritual, abuse, stuff like that. It doesn't always mean ritual as in hoods and Satan and whatnot. It doesn't have to. It can. Absolutely is. That does happen. But ritual as in doing the same thing at the same time, ritually, every morning you wake up and have coffee. That's a ritual. A lot of people use that. They know it is. It helps them wake up. It is something sacred to them. And so this idea of a program, it is just Pavlov and his dog. Conditioning. I've probably given you guys a recap on that. He would give his dog food, and then he would ring a bell. He would give his dog food, and he would ring a bell. He would give his dog food, and he would ring a bell. And after he did this, enough times, he would ring the bell, and the dog would know. What would happen is the bell would capture the dog's attention. The dog would hear the bell, and he would immediately shift his attention to food. And it was that attention that made the dog start drooling. And that's Pavlovian conditioning. And from there, the sky is the limit. Punishment. Let's see. From AP Psychology, that was one of my favorite classes. So you have positive reward and negative reward. Now, positive reward means that I give you something good. So if you're a kid and you do something good, a positive reward would be giving you a piece of candy. Negative reward is still a reward, but what the negative means is that you are taking away something bad. So if you, a kid, if you do your chores, you can stay up an hour extra or an hour later at night. You're taking away a restriction as a reward. That's a negative reward. Now the same thing works for punishment. A positive punishment would be positive punishment would be, I don't know, you get shocked if you get the answer wrong. That would be a positive punishment. I'm giving you a shock. A negative punishment would be giving you a curfew. Okay, so you do something wrong. Now I'm giving you curfew. I'm restricting your free time. So that is the psychology of reward and punishment. Now, if you've got a kid or even a dog, people who have trained their dog to sit down, same thing. Your dog sits when you say sit, you give him a treat. Your dog sits when you say sit, you give him a treat. And after so many times, the dog will sit when you say to sit. That's conditioning. This works on a societal level. For instance, when you participate online, when somebody's the social sacrifice, this person made a comment that I don't like, so I'm going to go ahead and ruin their life. That type of social sacrifice. If you go to that chaos, if a person goes and say, hey, maybe we shouldn't sit here and ruin this person's life for a comment. Well, what you've done is you've gone against the tide, if you will. So what's going to happen is you're going to get basically targeted. You're going to be hit with all of the anger of that group. And so it's what in behavioral psychology is called a Skinner box, B.F. Skinner. It was a box. It was a little tiny box, and you put a rat in there, and the rat had a little button, and it could press the button, and it would get food. And so it's a environment that's set up to condition. As a matter of fact, I'll look it up. Skinner box, an operant conditioning chamber. I've got a whole notebook of this. That was in AP Psych. We had to just take notes, and I've got the whole notebook. It's like a copy of the textbook. Yeah, so literally it's just a little box, and you set it up however you want. In this case, the box is, and see, this is where it gets brilliant. The box is not just a box. Social media is the box. This dynamic is social media. Because now, I don't know how many of you guys, probably the regulars who are here every night, remember Bot or Not, when Carner used to catch the DARPA bots. Now if I have all of these DARPA bots, I can make sure that anybody who says something that is not on point with the narrative, then you'll get bullied or you'll get harassed. That is what you can do when you control the environment, the social media landscape. So it's a very powerful tool, and that's what all propaganda, literally Edward Bernays, nephew of Sigmund Freud, wrote. Literally the book is called Propaganda. I don't know if I put that on my site yet. I might do it if I have. I think I did, as a matter of fact. The priesthood of the machine. So yeah, the occult priesthoods, as we've said, this is what is talked about in all of the literature, all of the occult literature. It just uses different cultural words for the same topic. Blavatsky, Bailey, Kardec, and Kuhn, who crafted mythologies. Another important thing to understand: a mythology is a program. That's what it is. A mythology is a program. So, let's see, for instance, if you dress a certain type of way, like let's say you just like to wear red. Well, it's because you have a personality or a opinion or a bias towards red. If a person likes a singer or a band because of the music that it resonates with them, they understand what they're talking about, it's something I've been through, well, then you adopt it because that's kind of your program. So if you're listening to all this music about sex, drugs, rock and roll, guns, women, then eventually that's going to be your program. Or you hang around the barber shop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. I've used that one a lot, and it's very true. That's why, you shouldn't hang around with bad influences. If you hang around the barbershop long enough, sooner or later you're going to get a haircut. So, they promote Gnostic inversion, replacing grace with knowledge-based ascension, and redefining sin as awakening to higher knowledge rather than rebellion. A good quote was, men and women who refuse to give God credit for their superior intelligence inadvertently become accomplices or members of the Luciferian conspiracy, and they become Satanists inadvertently. The reason for this is because if I'm a smart person and I use it to screw people over because I'm smarter than you, refusing to be humble and say, yeah, I know that the reason I'm smart is because God gave me that gift for a reason. People say, no, there's no such thing as God, and I'm just smart because I'm smart. They refuse, they rebel against God. They say, no, I'm not going to give you credit. And so that is truly what the story of Satan was. Is that, no, I'm not going to give you credit because, as he believed, he was glorious. He was an angel of light, a brilliant praise singer, as it would happen. So why is music so powerful? Well, there's a reason for it. Because Satan tried to spin his own mythology. That's what he did. He came down and he said, no. God is lying to you. I'm telling you the truth. In other words, God's mythology is not correct. My mythology is correct. That is what happened here. So, the truth is not what it seems. This is the truth. That's effectively what was going on. But it's an inversion. It's quite literally this perfect inversion. God said, don't do it. Satan said, do it. Binary, duality, yes, no. That is the origin of all computing, is the duality, the binary signal, ones and zeros. And so, yes and no. And that is why there is such a significance to the duality in occult belief. But the reason for that significance in the duality is because what it does is it enables systems like this. That's why polarity is so important, and such. The military scientific priesthood. Entities like DARPA, CERN, D-Wave, Oracle, and I guess CERN's listed twice. A dimensional key engineer probes and breaches boundaries, allowing legal negotiation of breath access. D-Wave, a quantum breath interface simulator, digitally simulates breath fragmentation and constructs synthetic identity models, aiming to create artificial breath kingdoms. DARPA and NSA projects focus on the mind-machine fusion, which is true. That's what they're working on. I was telling you earlier, Sabrina Wallace. Check her out. She's on such a high level with this stuff. It is very scary. And it does seem like science fiction, but you don't need to see through a lot of research to know that it's definitely true. I mean, look into mRNA. What is mRNA? That will tell you everything you need to know. Yeah, so what are DARPA? What are these systems doing? As a matter of fact, I've got a what I think is probably a better definition of that. Here we go. It's from Anab Whitehouse. It's called the Devil's Dictionary. What he did was he took he made a dictionary of all these new technological terms that are being used to essentially enslave us all. So DARPA, I made the graphics. He calls it the Devil's Advanced Research Projects Agency. It has been busily involved. Obviously, idle hands are not the only portal through which deviltry enters the world. It is involved with the generating of increasingly sophisticated, faster, as well as more complex or enhanced forms of brain-computer interfaces, a term first introduced in 1971 by Jacques Vidal, that are capable of being used as instruments of egalitarian, i.e. dual-use weaponry, which therefore can be directed against all parties, both foreign and domestic. DARPA is a publicly funded program that, like other government institutions, is dedicated to enslaving the people who are funding it. That's basically what I'm talking about. It's these research agencies are so consumed with bureaucracy, funding, ego-driven science, this idea that I'm making this great revelation and I want to be the one who discovered this. That is what I mean. And yeah, ultimately at the top for control, the people who are leading these projects, who the government, the president and the intelligence agency, they say, hey, we're going to need a back door into this. So the leaders of these groups will then carry that down the chain of command. They'll have their employees do it. And so between all of those things, the bureaucracy, the funding, the politics, these things literally just end up being created to enslave the people who are paying for it. And that's pretty much the truth. Look, social media, Facebook, Google, look at all of the military industrial interchange of employees. You've got people who are working for CIA and NSA who helped found all of these companies. What is that about? Those came out of DARPA. Currently, DARPA is deeply involved in experimenting with next-generation non-surgical neurotechnology known as MN3. If you guys are interested in a basic introduction to this idea of human augmentation, that's what this Devil's Dictionary is. He put all of this together to try and explain these terms for people. This is a euphemistic way of referring to the process of technologically augmenting human beings through acoustic, electromagnetic, and optical forces, which then can be utilized to assist the process of taking control of governance, resources, and non-augmented human beings. And so it's this idea that you basically spray your software from planes in the sky. I don't know how often they do it, but they probably do it a lot. And just get it in everything. Get it in the fish, get it in the frogs, get it in the birds, get it on the cars, get it in people's lungs, get it in men's nutsack. It's in our sperm now. That's how bad this crap is. Microplastics are now found in male sperm and obviously female ovaries and eggs. It's ridiculous. And no doubt whatsoever that a lot of that is so that they can just get this technology and everything. Because if you spray this dust in every living thing and all around the world, well then I guess you control the world, because these are mRNA, which is like a it's like a biological interface, or sorry, a technological interface to biology. And again, I don't know jack about that type of stuff. I really don't. So I'm really speaking from a position of ignorance on it. That's why I would really tell you to go and see Sabrina Wallace's videos. But I do know enough to know that it's very real, especially because the guy who wrote this, Anab Whitehouse. If you Google Anab Whitehouse, he was a top. Let's see, I can find a top scholar at Harvard. That's what I was going to say. I'm sorry. Yeah, his website is anab-whitehouse.com. Yeah, and he's done all kinds of interesting stuff here. But he was like a very smart person. So people who don't see this as being like even based in reality, then they're not going to look into it, and it's going to be that much longer that we have to put up with it. And it's one of the most painful things you can see when there are things that are real happening and people just deny that they're real. And that's what pains me the most. It's like people will listen to a survivor of ritual abuse tell their story, and then they will just say, no, none of that happened to you because I, across the internet, know what you went through. It's just what pisses me off, but that's a personal pet peeve. Let's see, I'm going to wrap it up after the, let's see. Yeah, the next couple sections here, I'll wrap it up. Okay, so the financial priesthood, the Vatican, as we previously established, the custodian of souls, the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland, the IMF, and BRICS serve as global registers of human energy data and ritual compliance. Birth certificates in maritime law function as soul bonds, legally claiming souls under maritime contract, suspending individuals in legal water, unanchored from divine inheritance. My opinion, the whole idea is that definitely there's a legal basis for all of it, but it's, as James says, you're not going to win in the court because the law is whatever they tell you the law is. They got a guy with a gun who'll put you on the ground and tell you that's the law. What are you going to do about it? You can appeal that, but that'll take 10 years. You can sit in jail for 10 years until your appeal goes through. And when your appeal is won and you are vindicated, then they're not going to hold the judge or the court that put you in jail accountable. So you're not going to win with it. But it is real. And the proof is, why did we choose to call it Social Security? No, the government doesn't give a about the security of a little old man. No. Security, as in Securities and Exchange Committee, or Commission, I can't remember, it was probably Commission. It literally is a security. Social Security. Those are the very securities which, as I said, our government gives government bonds to the Fed, and in return they're given or loaned money. The security for that loan is us, our work output in the form of Social Security. It's true. Digital rebirth. Oh, sorry, I didn't finish. Infrastructure priesthood. Modern cities, roads, and grids are designed as ritual motherboards. They are because if you look at ley lines, a lot of these roads and cities and highways definitely laid out according to ley lines. Circuits, they are circuits. Let's see. A circuit, all the roads are connected. So if you work 5 days a week, every day of the week, again, you get up, you have your coffee, you take a shower, you go to work, you use the same road every day. So that's literally like a current flowing through the road if you think about it. Into ritualized input in a ritualized sense. So you go to work every day, and biometric sacrifice, quite literally blood, sweat, and tears. Thank you to everyone following. I appreciate that. We got a couple new followers tonight, so I appreciate that. I am glad to see that. Yeah. Cameras, scanners, surveillance systems demand fragments of breath as digital offerings of identity, transforming compliance into worship. Even people I thought I would never see on the internet have actually, they've made the jump. They're on the internet now, and I never thought I would see that in my life. So that's what it means. You know, if you want to stay connected with your friends and family, well, you're going to need it. Now they don't have they probably do, but it's like not many people have landline phones anymore. So it's like, I guess you're going to have to buy a cell phone now. I'll leave off after this right here. The digital rebirth of Cain and the synthetic kingdom. CPUs as crystal thrones. Carner has talked about this. Microchips made of silicon become crystal thrones for fragmented breath. Digital arcs of Cain ready to host the beast. Really, what it's saying here is that energy ultimately comes from humans. I mean, what is it that allows the lights to be turned on? Well, there are many different types of energy, but at the places, you know, the factory, or not factories, I'm drawing up, like the place where they you know, fuel all of our energy grids, all of that energy from its various different forms, you know, solar, wind, you got water, you got dams, gas, coal, all of it. That requires human input. You got to have people who are keeping that going. And so if, I don't know, a whole, you had this happen about 100 years ago, the people who are mining the coal, you know, one day, a couple of times, they went on strike. And that turned into an actual war. Like, you know, it's like the coal wars. So if there are not people mining coal, well, then the whole program, you know, it shorts out. Because if the coal's not getting mined, well, then it's not getting burned. Well, then lights are not staying on in the long term. So it really is all just human energy. That's what society is. Quantum mirrors and soul simulation. Quantum mirrors reflect harvested breath fragments, assembling them into counterfeit life and soul simulations. This allows the adversary to argue, I can give them life, rating simulations as proof of authorship. And back to what we said, it's that whole idea of pastiche. Everything that we look up to, you know, the money's fake. Money's not real. Social media. Probably a lot of the people on social media are fake, but they're not tangibly there. You can't hug them, you can't touch them, you can't see them, you know. Yeah, and that is what people can consider valuable here in life. That's what people say, you know, I want that money. I want to be rich with all this made up money. And that's what they're saying, is that no, they're not worried about what was given to them by God. They're worried about this fake money that was created here on earth. You can't take it with you when you die. So you really want to spend your whole life dedicated to this fake occult sigil, moon money, dollars for Moloch. Go ahead, but you're not taking it with you. And that's the idea of proof of authorship. Everything that made this person them is here on earth in my kingdom, is what Satan said. This is my kingdom, and they're interested in money, drugs, sex, rock and roll. That's my domain. And so, by virtue of that, he's won their soul. And it's all with distractions. It's like a big amusement park to a degree. You know, it's here, step right up. You want to catch a buzz? Do you want to have a good time? Do you want to not feel your problems for a while? And he baits you in, and it's like sideshow attractions. But you're on your way to the gates of heaven, and one day the gates are going to close, and all of us will be judged. So, on your way to the gates of heaven, you pass through a carnival, and you know, you have a few extra minutes at first because you're young. And so you stop and you play a few of the games, and you have fun. And you walk on down another game. Oh, and he's really selling me up on this game. And before you know it, you're sitting here playing all these games, and a whole lifetime has passed. And so maybe you play those games too long, and now the gates are closed and you've lost your chance because you've been so distracted by everything that doesn't matter. That's what it's about, because we're all on borrowed time. We've all heard that. We're all on borrowed time. So who are we borrowing it from? God. And so what are we going to do? Are we going to let Satan borrow it from us? So that's the analogy, and I kind of went with that on the spot. But I think that's pretty much what we're dealing with here. I mean, nobody knows when Jesus is going to come back. We don't have a date. And so any day could be that day. So lay up your treasures today in heaven before you don't have that choice, because all of the treasures of the world are the Lord's anyways. All right, we'll finish it up after this. The cosmic courtroom in the legal war. Since Eden, creation has operated as a cosmic courtroom where heaven's registry of breath is the law's archive. The adversary, the prosecutor, is quite literally what Satan means, is prosecutor, so we're dealing with a legal structure here. Presents stolen breath as evidence of humanity's consent to his ownership, citing every breach and ritual as a legal precedent. He argues they no longer need your breath, they prefer their own. Like I said a few minutes ago, people who won't give God credit for their superior intellect or whatever, people who just can't stand the fact that it was given to them by God. No, it was all me. Those are the people, essentially, that it's talking about here. They no longer need God's breath. They prefer their own. They are smart on their own accords. The cross is the counterform. Against this stands Christ, the advocate whose blood is the master key, the counter formula that cancels every fraudulent clause. His sacrifice is a registry reset. It nullifies every fraudulent contract when claimed by faith. His breath, offered on Calvary, recompiled the registry. So it's the idea of that is that you gotta know that you're only human, and that you have done wrong, and that you do need to say, hey, I'm only human. I need forgiveness for this. But on the other hand, if I don't think I've ever done anything wrong, and if my intellect is because of me and it's not because God gave it to me, well then why do I need to ask for forgiveness for? That's when you reach a problem. That's what the idea of Jesus has saved all of us by his grace. In that you have to ask Jesus to forgive you. You have to ask for it. You're not just forgiven without asking. And so if you can't ask the question, well then you won't, which means you close the door on yourself. So the idea is, hey, I'm human, but we all are human. We've all made mistakes. And so, yeah, every single one of us on this planet needs forgiveness. That's just my belief. We're all fallible. We're not infallible. As much as the Pope in Rome claims that he is infallible and not capable of being wrong, not possible. He is fallible, because he dies just like the last one died, and just like 260 some other popes have died, including St. Peter himself. Even St. Peter was a mortal man, and he knew it. So the Pope is the successor to Peter only in his denial of Christ. The remnant's role. Saints are not passive observers, but legal witnesses, co-counsels with Christ, wielding authority through petitions filed in heaven's registry. Their prayers are not wishes, but executable code, counter programs that nullify fraudulent claims and reassert the Lamb's authorship. Every renunciation, every deliverance, every declaration of Christ's blood annuls fraudulent filings and shatters seals. This exposes the adversary's legal architecture, draining his breath treasury and ensuring the registry's collapse. The true registry cannot be hacked. It can only be exposed, because the tie-in here is truth. It's that once you know the truth, then it sets you, makes you free. That was something Carner coined, and I liked it. The truth doesn't set you free, it makes you free. Because if it sets you free, you can and will be caught again. But if it makes you free, you can't ever be caught again. And so to cap it off, the beast system, the culmination of this conspiracy, will claim total breath governance, attempting to centralize breath management through a global digital identity system tied to finance, biometric tracking, and AI governance. It will present itself as enlightened world governance while functioning as total breath enslavement. Yet the Father retains ultimate registry ownership, and Christ's blood is the unbreakable legal contract that guarantees the inevitable collapse of this counterfeit kingdom and the full restoration of breath to its rightful author. And that's, in my opinion, pretty darn accurate. And so, guys, if you haven't, first go to jamescarner.com, scroll down, and you can download all of the books for free. They don't cost 1 cent. They're free for everybody. They're not long either. They're only, the newest one is just under 100 pages, but the first two are just over 100 pages. They're not long books. And if you don't have the time to read through it all the way, I have posted summaries that are similar to what I've just read to you and presented to you on my website, which you can find down in the bottom right corner, theofficialurban.substack.com. All of my links can be found at bio.link/officialurban. Guys, I will be with you again tomorrow. I will have something interesting for you as always. I appreciate everyone on all of the platforms that has joined me tonight. We're on Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Kick, X. We're even on Odyssey tonight, so I wonder if anybody's on Odyssey. Probably not, because Odyssey is, it's not a bad platform. Like, I won't say it is a bad platform. I don't necessarily like this idea that you have got to, it makes you basically pay like these credits to upload videos. So I don't really know if I'm supposed to, I don't know how it works, but I gave it a shot, and you know, we'll see where it goes. Substack, guys, my Substack is blown up big time. I went from let's see, about 400 subscribers on July 9th, and now we're at 2,600. We're at 2,600 followers on Substack. And so I'm really shocked at that. Honestly, I was surprised by that. Boots, Claire, I appreciate you guys. You guys are here with me every night that I'm hosting, so I appreciate you guys greatly. I appreciate everyone on every platform that's joined me tonight. You guys are a great audience. I appreciate everybody who's here every night. It really makes Carner and I happy to know that people are enjoy what we have to share with you. I know that it's it is niche and it's unique, and I'm fine with that, and I know he is too. It's like, I am not concerned with having a huge audience, because I know that not everybody will understand this material, or you know, it's not for everybody. But the people who will and who need to understand it will be here and are here. So I appreciate everybody. I will see you guys tomorrow night. Definitely support Pastor Carner and download his book and share it if you're inclined to. Share the book with your friends. Link the articles on my Substack if you're so inclined. The videos on this channel. That's all we could ask of you guys. And Boots, hit the like button, as Boots always reminds us to do. So hit the like button, whatever platform you're on. It helps me if it's one of my platforms. It helps Pastor Carner if it's on Rumble. But with that, guys, I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. And I hope you all have a great rest of the night. Thanks, guys. Take care.